Before restarting the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Story 1. The soft rays of morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow in the Stevens bedroom. Sarah Stevens, a devoted wife and mother, had been up since dawn, tending to her husband John. For 5 long years, she had watched as dementia gradually stole away the man she had loved since their high school days. Each day brought new challenges, but today would be different. Sarah had noticed peculiarities over the past few months, small things that didn't fit within the confines of John's deteriorating mental state. Misplaced objects, whispers of conversations he shouldn't have been able to comprehend, and an inexplicable familiarity with financial matters. These suspicions gnawed at Sarah's heart, urging her to uncover the truth. Determined to put her doubts to rest, Sarah took a deep breath and set her plan into motion. With a mixture of trepidation and determination, she purchased a discreet hidden camera and meticulously installed it in their bedroom, strategically positioned to capture any unusual activity without being detected. As darkness descended upon the house, Sarah's heart raced with anticipation. She retired to bed, feigning sleep, her eyes fixed on the small screen displaying the live feed from the hidden camera. The silence was deafening, and the weight of the unknown hung heavy in the air. Minutes turned into hours, and doubts began to creep into Sarah's mind. Maybe her suspicions were unfounded, a figment of her imagination. Just as Sarah's eyelids grew heavy with fatigue, a faint creak resonated through the house. Her eyes shot open, adrenaline surging through her veins. The camera's feed flickered to life, revealing the silhouette of John, his hunched figure moving stealthily across the room. Sarah's breath hitched as she watched her husband unlock the drawer of his bedside table, the one she had always assumed held his medication. But instead of reaching for pills, his hand emerged clutching a small bundle of cash. Her heart pounded, each beat echoing in her ears. What was John doing with that money, and why did he seem so purposeful? With trembling hands, John counted the bills, his eyes scanning the room with a furtive intensity. Sarah's mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of this baffling puzzle. Was John involved in something illicit? Her thoughts spiraled, conjuring scenarios she had never considered possible. The camera captured John slipping the money into his pocket, his gaze fixated on the door. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she watched him leave the room, disappearing into the depths of the night. Confusion and fear gripped her, threatening to suffocate her rationality. What had just transpired? And where was John going at this hour, with such determination? As Sarah pondered these questions, a sinking feeling settled in her gut. The cracks in her husband's facade had finally revealed themselves, and the truth seemed far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. The image on the screen flickered for a moment before fading to black, leaving Sarah alone with her bewildering discoveries and a future veiled in uncertainty. Little did she know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would test her strength, challenge her beliefs, and unravel the intricacies of a life she thought she knew. The hidden camera had peeled back the layers of her husband's reality, exposing a secret world filled with enigmas and shadows. Sarah's once steadfast foundation had been shattered, setting the stage for a tumultuous family saga that would leave no one unscathed. Sarah's mind swirled with a whirlwind of emotions as she grappled with the shocking revelations captured by the hidden camera. Determined to uncover the truth, she embarked on a relentless pursuit of answers, her heart aching with a mixture of concern for her husband's well-being and the need to protect her family from the secrets that lay beneath the surface. She began her investigation by discreetly reaching out to friends and acquaintances who had known John throughout his life. Conversations took place in hushed tones, behind closed doors, as Sarah sought to preserve her husband's dignity, while unraveling the tangled web of his past. Each person she spoke to unveiled a new layer of John's hidden life. Former colleagues described him as a meticulous and driven businessman, renowned for his financial acumen. However, they hinted at a darker side, alluding to shady dealings and whispers of impropriety. Sarah's heart sank, struggling to reconcile the image of her kind-hearted husband with the potential truth of his actions. Her inquiries led her to an old friend of John's, George Thompson, who had fallen out of touch in recent years. Their reunion was tinged with both nostalgia and unease as Sarah delicately broached the subject of John's behavior. George's eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and regret as he shared a tale that painted a far bleaker picture than Sarah could have anticipated. George divulged that he and John had been involved in a business venture that ultimately collapsed, leaving investors bankrupt and lives shattered. John had managed to distance himself from the fallout, disappearing into the shadows while others faced the consequences of their actions. The revelation struck Sarah like a thunderbolt, a heavy weight settling on her shoulders. Driven by a newfound determination, Sarah dug deeper, scouring financial records and legal documents. Her relentless pursuit began to unravel a complex scheme orchestrated by John, a web of embezzlement and deceit that had spanned years. The evidence painted a portrait of a man who had betrayed the trust of those closest to him, all while concealing his actions behind a veil of dementia. Sarah's heart wavered between anger and sorrow as she confronted John with her discoveries. The truth spilled from his lips, mingling with the tears that streamed down his face. He confessed of his involvement in the embezzlement scheme, admitting that his deteriorating mental state had provided the perfect cover to conceal his guilt. The consequences of John's actions reverberated through the community. Lives were shattered, families left destitute, and the trust placed in the Stevens family name was irreparably tarnished. Sarah grappled with the weight of guilt, questioning whether she had missed the signs or been blind to her husband's true nature. Her faith in love and loyalty was shattered, and the bond that had once bound their family together was stretched to its limits. Yet, amidst the chaos and heartache, Sarah found solace and strength in her children. Emma, their eldest, became a pillar of support, fiercely protective of her mother and siblings. Michael, their youngest, grappled with the duality of love for his father and the pain of betrayal. Together, they clung to one another, weathering the storm that had engulfed their lives. As the dust settled, Sarah was left to navigate the aftermath of the revelations, a landscape marred by broken trust and shattered dreams. The path to healing stretched out before her, daunting yet filled with the potential for redemption. With each passing day, she vowed to rebuild not only her own life, but also the lives of those who had been affected by John's deceit. Sarah's journey to uncover the truth behind her husband's actions had only just begun. Armed with the knowledge of John's involvement in the embezzlement scheme, she delved deeper into his past, seeking answers and closure. Determined to understand how their lives had become entangled in such a web of deceit, she embarked on a quest for the truth. Sarah turned to John's old friends and acquaintances, eager to fill in the gaps in her understanding. She reached out to Martha, an old college friend of John's, hoping to gain insight into his character before the darkness had taken hold. Their conversation painted a picture of a charismatic and ambitious young man, driven by an insatiable hunger for success. Martha's memories conjured images of John's relentless pursuit of wealth and power, fueled by an unquenchable thirst for validation. Sarah listened intently, piecing together fragments of her husband's past that shed light on the motivations behind his actions. It became clear that John's involvement in the embezzlement scheme was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a lifetime of hidden ambitions and a hunger for more. The trail led Sarah to Richard, a former business partner who had fallen out of favor with John years ago. Richard's bitterness toward John was palpable, but he held a key to unlocking the depths of John's deception. Reluctantly, Richard shared details of their partnership, revealing how John had used his charm and manipulative tactics to exploit others for personal gain. Sarah's heart sank further as she heard of the lives ruined and the shattered dreams left in John's wake. The weight of the truth threatened to crush her spirit, but a flicker of determination burned within her. She couldn't undo the past, but she could seek justice for those who had been wronged. With newfound resolve, Sarah sought the counsel of Peter Mitchell, a renowned lawyer with a reputation for fighting for justice. Peter had witnessed firsthand the devastation caused by John's actions and harbored a deep-seated resentment toward him. Sarah's unexpected arrival at his office sparked a flicker of interest in Peter's eyes, the possibility of redemption and retribution, rekindling a fire within him. Peter agreed to take on Sarah's case, pledging to help her navigate the legal complexities and bring those responsible for the embezzlement scheme to justice. Together, they pored over mountains of evidence, connecting the dots and building a strong case against not only John but also his accomplices. As the investigation unfolded, Sarah discovered a hidden network of individuals who had aided John in his schemes. The web of deceit stretched far wider than she had ever imagined, ensnaring prominent figures in the community and casting a shadow of doubt over the integrity of those she had once trusted. The path to justice was fraught with obstacles. Sarah faced threats and intimidation from those who sought to protect their own interests and silence her pursuit of truth. Yet, with Peter by her side, she refused to be deterred. The fight for justice became a rallying cry, a testament to her resilience and unwavering determination to right the wrongs inflicted upon innocent lives. As the trial loomed on the horizon, Sarah stood tall, her gaze unwavering. The courtroom became a battleground, where the truth clashed with deception and justice hung in the balance. Each revelation unveiled another layer of John's deceit, leaving the jury and spectators in stunned silence. Finally, the gavel fell, pronouncing John guilty of his crimes. The weight of his actions bore down upon him. His mask of deception finally shattered. Story 2. Emily stood in front of the mirror, a mixture of anticipation and nervousness swirling within her. Today was the day she would finally move in with her in-laws, a decision she had made to strengthen her relationship with her husband James and build a sense of family. But as she smoothed down her blouse and adjusted her necklace, a sense of unease gnawed at her. James, handsome and charming, had swept Emily off her feet from the moment they met. Their courtship was filled with laughter, shared dreams, and promises of a future together. Emily had been drawn not only to James but also to his seemingly close-knit family, envisioning a warm and welcoming home that would become her own. However, as the wedding day approached and Emily spent more time with her future in-laws, she started to notice subtle cracks in the family's foundation. There were tension-filled conversations and passive-aggressive remarks, masked beneath the veneer of civility. The warmth she had anticipated turned icy, leaving her feeling like an outsider in her own love story. Nonetheless, Emily forged ahead, hoping that moving in with her in-laws would be the catalyst for change, a chance to bridge the divide and forge a deeper connection. As she packed her belongings into boxes, she couldn't help but wonder if she was making the right decision. Was she prepared for the challenges that lay ahead? Would living under the same roof bring her closer to her in-laws, or would it only widen the rift? The drive to her in-laws' house was filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Emily's heart raced as she pulled into the familiar driveway, the house looming before her. Taking a deep breath, she entered, ready to embark on this new chapter of her life. The initial greetings were polite, but the air was heavy with unspoken tension. Emily noticed the strained smiles and the stifled sighs. As the days turned into weeks, she realized that the harmony she had yearned for was nothing more than an illusion. The once vibrant conversations were replaced by awkward silences, and the shared meals felt like formal affairs rather than moments of familial connection. One evening, as Emily sat alone in the living room, she received a text from James. "Have you moved in yet?" the message read. Her heart sank, realizing the implications of his inquiry. She quickly replied, "I'm moving out already." The words escaped her fingers, surprising even herself. Time seemed to stand still as Emily's decision settled in. She knew that leaving would shock everyone, her in-laws, James, and even herself. But the weight of the strained relationships, the unspoken tensions, and the feeling of not belonging had become unbearable. She couldn't continue to live in a place that suffocated her spirit and made her question her worth. Summoning her courage, Emily stood up, walked to the front door, and announced to her in-laws, "Leaving now." The room fell silent, the shock evident on their faces. No one expected this sudden departure, least of all Emily herself. She didn't know where she would go or what her next steps would be, but she knew that staying would only prolong her unhappiness. As she stepped out into the unknown, Emily's heart braced for the challenges that awaited her. She vowed to find her own path, to discover her own sense of belonging, and to redefine her relationship with James on her own terms. Emily found herself standing at a crossroads, her heart heavy with the weight of her decision to leave her in-laws' house. She knew that the path she had chosen would lead her down a road of uncertainty, but it was a necessary step toward reclaiming her sense of self and finding the truth behind the fractured dynamics of her husband's family. In the days that followed her departure, Emily sought solace in the familiar embrace of her childhood home. Her parents, understanding and supportive, offered a safe haven where she could gather her thoughts and heal her wounded spirit. They encouraged her to take time for introspection, to explore the reasons behind the tensions she had experienced within her in-laws' household. As she reflected on her relationship with James and the strained dynamics she had witnessed, Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal. The warmth and unity she had initially perceived in her in-laws had been shattered, replaced by a coldness that she struggled to comprehend. Questions swirled in her mind, begging for answers that seemed just out of reach. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily began her investigation by digging into the past. She delved into the family history, reaching out to distant relatives, old friends, and neighbors who had known James' family for years. Conversations were held in hushed tones, as if a hidden truth hung in the air, waiting to be unveiled. Slowly, the puzzle pieces started to come together, forming a picture far different from the one Emily had imagined. Rumors began to surface, whispers of long-held secrets and hidden resentments that had festered beneath the surface. The more she uncovered, the more she realized that her in-laws' strained relationships were not isolated incidents, but rather a pattern that had plagued the family for years. Through her inquiries, Emily discovered a history of deep-seated conflicts, rivalries, and betrayals that had shaped her in-laws' lives. She heard stories of broken promises, bitter feuds, and a legacy of pain passed down from one generation to the next. It became clear that the strained dynamics within the family were not solely her burden to bear. They were the product of a long-standing cycle of dysfunction. One name that kept resurfacing in Emily's investigation was Aunt Margaret. Known as the matriarch of the family, Margaret held the key to unlocking the truth behind the family's fractured relationships. Emily sought her out, hoping to gain insight into the origins of the tensions that had permeated her in-laws' home. Their meeting was a mixture of trepidation and curiosity. Margaret, weathered by time and experience, shared stories of past betrayals and family secrets that had been carefully guarded. Her words painted a complex picture of a family torn apart by jealousy, greed, and a thirst for power. It seemed that the fractures ran deeper than Emily could have ever imagined. Armed with newfound knowledge, Emily confronted James, demanding answers. The revelation of the family's hidden past shocked him, and for the first time, Emily saw vulnerability in his eyes. He confessed that he, too, had been shielded from the truth, growing up in the shadow of the family's secrets. As the truth unraveled, Emily realized that her decision to leave had not only been an act of self-preservation, but also an opportunity for her to break the cycle of dysfunction. She knew that the journey toward healing would be arduous, but she was determined to forge a new path, one built on honesty, open communication, and a willingness to confront the demons of the past. The revelation of the family's hidden past had shaken Emily to her core. Armed with newfound knowledge, she embarked on a journey of self-discovery, determined to navigate the treacherous waters of her in-laws' secrets and reclaim her own sense of truth. Emily's first step was to confront her in-laws, seeking answers and clarity about the tumultuous history that had shaped their family dynamics. She arranged a meeting, hoping that they would finally be willing to open up and lay bare the truths that had been concealed for far too long. As Emily entered the room, the atmosphere grew tense. Her in-laws, faces etched with weariness and guarded expressions, seemed hesitant to delve into the painful memories that lay buried beneath the surface. Emily took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. With each question she posed, the air grew heavier. At first, her in-laws remained silent, their eyes darting from one another, as if searching for a unified response. But as Emily persisted, gently unraveling the threads of their shared history, the floodgates of truth slowly opened. She discovered that her in-laws had been burdened by a dark secret, a tragedy that had shattered their lives years ago. It was a revelation that had been carefully guarded, locked away in the recesses of their hearts. The weight of their shared pain had created an impenetrable wall between them, casting a shadow that loomed over every interaction. Emily listened as they recounted the harrowing events, the loss, the guilt, and the repercussions that had rippled through the years. Their faces etched with sorrow and regret, her in-laws bared their souls, each word chipping away at the facade of unity that had masked their pain. In the midst of their revelations, Emily's perception of her in-laws shifted. No longer were they distant figures she struggled to connect with. They became individuals scored by tragedy, carrying burdens that had shaped their identities and influenced their choices. With empathy in her heart, Emily reached out to her in-laws, offering solace and understanding. She recognized the complexity of their emotions and the role their shared history had played in the strained dynamics that had initially driven her away. It was a pivotal moment of connection as walls began to crumble and a foundation of compassion was laid. Together, they navigated the difficult terrain of their past, working to rebuild their relationships on a foundation of honesty and forgiveness. The process was not without its challenges, as wounds once thought healed were reopened, and buried emotions resurfaced. But through it all, there was a glimmer of hope, a shared commitment to heal the fractures that had plagued their family for far too long. As the days turned into weeks, Emily immersed herself in the process of reconciliation. She learned to let go of her anger and resentment, understanding that they were products of a shared history that had left scars on everyone involved. She embraced her role as a catalyst for change, offering support and encouragement as her in-laws confronted their own demons. Throughout this journey, Emily also found unexpected allies. A distant cousin emerged from the shadows, armed with his own knowledge of the family's secrets. He became a trusted confidant, sharing his insights and acting as a guiding light in the pursuit of truth. Together, they dove deeper into the hidden recesses of the family's history, unearthing long-forgotten tales of resilience. Each revelation brought them closer to understanding the intricate web of love, loss, and personal struggle that had woven its way through generations. The moral of these two stories is that the pursuit of truth and the willingness to confront past wounds are crucial for personal growth and familial healing. They teach us the importance of honesty, open communication, and empathy in navigating complex family dynamics. In the first story, Emily's decision to install a hidden camera and confront the reality of her husband's dementia demonstrates the power of seeking truth even in the face of painful circumstances. It emphasizes the need to confront difficult situations head-on rather than turning a blind eye. By facing the truth, Emily is able to make informed decisions and find a sense of closure. The second story delves into the unraveling of family secrets and the subsequent journey of reconciliation. It highlights the destructive nature of buried secrets and the profound impact they can have on familial relationships. The story teaches us that honesty and forgiveness are essential for breaking cycles of dysfunction and rebuilding fractured bonds. Overall, these stories underscore the significance of self-reflection, empathy, and resilience in navigating the complexities of family dynamics. They encourage us to challenge assumptions, dig deeper into the truth, and approach our loved ones with compassion and understanding. By doing so, we can heal past wounds, strengthen familial connections, and forge a path towards personal growth and collective harmony.